You know what? I know I want to go back to the olden days for my first pick here. Um, we sort of talked about this offline, like what kind of diversity we're going to have represented here. So I might go a little. It's not the one I was anticipating to pick first, but I feel like there's more of an objective argument for this individual. So for my first pick, I'm going with Katherine Hepburn.
Wow. First pick
Wow.
in the draft. I love that. Definitely on my list. Definitely on my list. Let's
on
talk
my
about
list
it.
too.
Well, part of the reason why, maybe I'm going too early with him with someone that we should be saving for another pick later, but when we think of a movie star, someone is a movie star when another famous actor wins an Oscar playing that person. And of course, talking about Cate Blanchett in The Aviator. But then you look at Katherine Hepburn and her filmography starting all the way back from the year 1933 with Little Women, directed by George Cukor. That famous adaptation there, one of the earliest adaptations, if I'm not mistaken. That was 1933. And then you extend that all the way out to On Golden Pond in 1981. That's almost 50 years of movie stardom. In between that, you have Bringing Up Baby, The Philadelphia Story, Woman of the Year, The African Queen, The Lion in Winter. And now, not all of those are single-star vehicles. There's definitely some that qualify as more of an ensemble piece, like let's say The Philadelphia Story with, I don't want to say other actors' names because they might come up later in this conversation. I don't know. But sometimes they function maybe a little bit ensemble-like. But she was a draw. She was a very exotic and unique individual of that time, and it spanned for a long time. So I think just given the longevity of this actress, I think there's an argument to be made there. So that's why I went with her for this first pick.
That's a good pick. I mean, she's like the epitome of what one of the greatest actresses of all time.
Yeah.
At a time also too, she was at one point considered to be a little bit of a box office poison when we talked about it with Bringing Up Baby for a minute. But then she had a renaissance with Philadelphia Story and, a model example. I mean, like what's, great about, maybe another pick later, modern actresses or actresses after her is everyone is chasing her because she is, I think she 4 Oscars, if I'm not mistaken. And she's just considered one of the all-time greats. So yeah. I mean,
even there's
no brainer.
There's a lot about the way that she carried herself in those movies that still feels very like, from a female perspective. I speak from someone like my fiance's perspective. We watched movies like The Philadelphia Story and Woman of the Year not too long ago, and there's something about the way she carries herself that just seems so desirable. She just has this poise and this confidence that is just incredible. And the fact that there's a timelessness there for sure.
Well, Jay and I talked about Bringing Up Baby last year and just how it is an all-time comedic performance.
I called it maybe the greatest comedic performance I've ever seen.
I mean she's known to be a great dramatic actress, one of the greats. But I mean, you see something like that, it's like she's just gifted beyond anybody's wild imagination. I mean, it's a great pick. Yeah.
But I'll say this, nobody had that first on their mock draft. So I'm very interested to see where this goes now.
Me too.
Let's go to number 2.
This is why I did not want to go second, because I wanted to see how Jay was going to play this. I know Jay's going hard in the paint.
Jay's going Jay.
I could go and like ruin his dreams, but I'm going to be nice because
Ryan knows who my number 1 is. So
yeah, I know who his number 1 is. I'm not going to take him. I'm going to let you have him. I'm going to be nice.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm going to let you have, I'm going to let you have whoever the hell it is, even though we all know who it's going to be. It's kind of quintessential Jay. If he doesn't take this pick, I would walk out of this podcast right now.
Well, now I'm curious to see if it's actually who you're thinking of, but we'll see.
We'll see in a little bit.
I know what it is. I'm like 1,000% confident. I would bet my entire bank account on it who it is. Watch it in like 20 seconds. Nope, that's not who I thought. I'm poor. Yeah.
I'll take that bet. Is there anything on my end that I have to give up?
No,
I'll take your
no,
bank
do not. Just don't take somebody else just to be like not, to make me poor.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm stalling because it's just the truth. But no, I know who I'm gonna actually take at my number 1 pick here. and I think that this is like, I mean, this is a pretty undeniable one. And off camera, we did talk about a movie that they are in, um, briefly, and between Brendan and myself, and that is I'm going to
Mhm.
take Paul Newman as
Okay.
my number one pick.
Nice.
Okay.
I mean, when you and your wife get a documentary series directed by Ethan Hawke made about you being the last movie stars, you might need to be like, there might need to be a good case about you being the last movie stars that we ever have. But
Mhm.
when I watched that last year, I mean, I love Paul Newman. Paul Newman's one of the greatest actors ever, all time. Dominated an era like him and the actors of his era, they were just revered. There's just something about Paul Newman and the sort of ease and confidence that he's had.
Mhm.
But I think also too, beyond the box office, beyond the Oscar win and is lies something I think that also makes a great movie star is a good person. Paul Newman was considered to be a great human being,
Makes a
while
great
flawed.
dressing.
Yes,
Yeah.
and but also too, that's the thing. You joke about that, but that whole popcorn making salad dressing vehicle was all done from the vantage
Yeah.
point
Yeah.
of how do I finance these charities? How do I finance this camp for these kids? How do
Mhm.
I, do all this stuff? He's his Formula One earnings as well. Like the man is truly one of the most fascinating individuals we've ever had. And it's as much
Mhm.
about giving back off camera as he is giving us timeless performances on camera.
Sure.
Then, of course, you have, I mean, name the films: Cool Hand Luke, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof,
The
uh,
Hustler.
The Hustler. Then Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Sting, The Verdict. The list goes on and on and on and on, even until something like Road to Perdition, which is his last sort of big screen performance.
Yep.
And he's still knocking it out of the damn park, and he always emptied the tank. He always did, and so I think that it's kind of like a no brainer. It's like he's someone that I think every single actor that we know in the modern era as a movie star tried to be and have tried to be. Him and Joanne Woodward, his wife, they are model examples. And yeah, I had to pick him. It was kind of a no brainer at number one.
Yeah, he's on my list somewhere. He was actually towards the bottom, but he's one of those actors that really did a great job putting his money where his mouth was. As you talk
Yes.
about some of his work outside of just making movies and the kind of person that he was, to be able to strike that balance like that is, I wouldn't say it's a rarity, but it doesn't happen as often as we would like to see, I'll simply say.
He wasn't also like publicizing it and putting it, obviously in a
Yeah,
different era, not social
he
media, but
didn't
like,
market himself that way,
yeah.
which I
And
love.
then also just a guy too that like had enormous guilt of the fact that as he's becoming a movie star, his wife is at home, and he directs a film that resurrects her career in Rachel
Mhm.
Rachel, and made movies with her and did theater work with her, and
Yeah.
a lot of his stuff that he did, it was charity. Like he did it to give back. That's kind of unique. We don't hear about that, or if we do hear about it, it's like an afterthought. It's not something you put on the front of the resume,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and what you're saying there, I think, is unique to this conversation, because if we were doing a best actors draft,
Hmm.
everything you said there about his charitable mind or whatever, I'd be like, doesn't matter, who cares? But when you
Yeah.
talk about movie stardom, the off-screen stuff is part of
It's
the
important.
package.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
So
got to understand that this is being a movie star is not just about yourself at a certain point. It's about
yeah,
what you can do for others. And it's not also just about saving cinema. That's
Yeah.
part of it, you know what I mean? And having an enduring legacy. And I would argue Paul Newman is one of the greatest actors of all time. There's not a question. Like you can
He's
have that
both.
argument.
He's both.
He's
Yeah.
he's it's the thing
yeah.
of a lot of these people have one or the other. It's very rare to have both. You know what I
And I
mean?
think that's who the top picks are, the people that have both.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
that will bring me to my number one. Ryan, who am I picking with my number one?
Well, I mean,
Well, he can't say it because then that name becomes known. Because if it's
No,
wrong,
I
then
need
you're
him. I
going to
need
say
him to
to
guess.
me.
He said he's 1000% sure.
I
We
think
just got to be on the honor system here.
I think it's the guy that like he's been watching like Apple Plus movies for like the last couple of years and like crying over. I think it's got to be Tom Hanks.
No, it's not.
No?
No, no,
Oh, I'm
no,
broke.
no, no.
Oh.
No, I got one word for you.
Mm.
Lakers.
Oh, I knew it was. Yeah, that was like my second pick for you.
I'm
I was
going
like,
Jack Nicholson, who I have said multiple times on this podcast, I think is the greatest movie star of all time because he has that both. I think he is such an incredible personality in and of himself. I think he's a heliocentric performer, but I also think he's an incredible actor. And you see that with the accolades that he has acquired over the years. You see that with the taste of filmmakers that he has, with the taste of projects that he has. And I mean, you just look at this career of movies that he has put together, from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest to all of his James L. Brooks movies, The Shining. I mean, the list goes on and on. You've got The Departed, Something's Gotta Give. It's just on and on and on and on. These films that he's been in.
Something's Gotta Give. That movie.
What?
I love that movie.
I love Something's Gotta
he's
Give.
great in that movie. Yeah,
Such a charming movie.
He's got such range too, I think, because he can be so funny. I think he can be really, really funny when he wants to. You think about him in Broadcast News, for example, where he's just like, James L. Brooks could just call him on the phone and say, "Hey, I'll give you $5 million. Come for 3 days." And Jack is like, I got you, man. Don't worry about it. Yeah. I got you, buddy. But he is, to me, the greatest confluence of personality and of anybody in Hollywood history, in my opinion. I don't know how y'all feel about him, but to me, that's what he has always represented.
He has both of those things that we talked about with not just Paul Newman, obviously, you know, just that on-screen and off-screen persona, but I think we can even extend that off-screen presence even further by saying you know, sometimes when we see all of these movie stars, sometimes they're so short-lived or their careers are so short-lived because they remind us of other stars that we already know. But someone like Jack Nicholson, there is nobody else like this guy. He is just such a unique personality. Like you saw that guy on the street and he wasn't a movie star and you didn't recognize who it was, you would still think to yourself, that guy's cool. There is no one else. I've never met a guy like that.
I didn't even mention Chinatown. My God.
Yeah,
oh my gosh, what a movie.
I mean,
what a Five Easy Pieces is one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, he started out as like the independent stoner guy.
Yeah.
The
Easy
biggest movie star
Rider
in
as
the
well.
world.
I think that kind of fits
Again,
in that category as well.
It's like a guy like this
Few Good Men.
of like,
come on now.
Yeah.
of like something like Adam Driver. You know what I mean? Where like started off doing all these indie stuff, threw in a Batman movie in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you want to talk about how
Joker.
comic book movies got started? That movie didn't get made because it was a Batman movie. That movie got made because it was a Jack Nicholson
movie.
And it was kind of marketed as that too. Wasn't he
Yes,
top
yeah.
billed for it? And Michael Keaton was second billing?
Yep. Which is crazy because it's a
In
Batman
a
movie.
way,
You know what I
way-
mean? Like,
it kind of created this, I don't know if I want to call it stigma, but in many ways, Jack Nicholson created this mindset that the villains are sometimes more important when it comes to marketing a superhero movie. And he's kind of to blame for that.
but I will say this. The thing that I think solidifies this pick for Jay isn't the movies and it isn't just like sitting courtside at Laker games.
Mm-hmm.
Jay's gonna roll his eyes, I think, a little bit at me.
It was that he was front row at the Oscars for infinity years. Yeah.
Exactly. When Crystal
He was
points that camera,
he was hard to find as the biggest star in Hollywood for however long that lasted. Yes.
exactly. This is my point. Like it's the thing of like Jay and I talk about this every year. When he does look back at the telecast because he doesn't watch it live anymore, he's like, "Who's in the Nicholson seat?" Because there's somebody in the Nicholson seat now.
Exactly.
Who's the biggest star that they could get in the frickin' room? And what's funny is like this past year's Oscars, while everybody loved all the wins and everything, there wasn't like the biggest. There wasn't a big like. There's the
legend,
big, the legend in the room. There, some I won't name some of the names, because it might be potential picks and giving stuff away.
Mm-hmm.
But like that was the complaint. It's like, where's the movie stars? And I mean, like times and eras change, but who filled the Nicholson seat is kind of like a thing that you have on your bingo card every year when you're watching the Oscars. Who's in that seat? And so, yeah,
Yeah.
Jay, that's a perfect pick.